Okay, hello, everybody. It is 7 o'clock. I'd like to welcome everybody and call this meeting to order. Clerk Allison, could you please do a roll call?
I will. Trustee Conboy.
Trustee Conboy is going to be late. He will be joining us at some point.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Farrell Mayer. Okay,
Oh, everybody's muted.
Muted, yes. I hear her.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Metz.
Here.
Trustee Kennedy.
Here.
Trustee O'Loughlin.
Here.
And Trustee Wittenberg.
Here.
Yes, okay. All right, very good. And of course, Mayor Hinshaw is here. I know.
All right, thank you, everybody. I'm going to read a special notice for this meeting because we are in a pandemic. Pursuant to Public Act 101-0640, as well as the disaster proclamation and executive orders issued by Governor Pritzker, this meeting will be held in person with limited physical attendance. As set forth below, and below is the agenda, those not willing to or able to physically attend can still fully participate in our meeting. Meetings must still be held in a manner that is open and convenient to the public, and there still needs to be an opportunity for public comment. There are changes from our normal meeting procedures, but we will not conduct business privately. Consideration is being given to how the public can at least see or listen to the meeting virtually without needing to attend in person. Instructions for how the public can see, listen, and/or participate in the meetings are listed immediately below the statement. Again, I'm reading off of the agenda. The public can submit comments. Importantly, the public body has adopted temporary public comment rules to ensure the means chosen to provide an opportunity for public comment complies with the Open Meeting Act provision that any person shall be permitted an opportunity to address public officials under the rules established and recorded by the public body. This will be a completely remote meeting following the Illinois Revised Open Meeting Act guidelines. Public comments can be submitted two ways: via email at admin@indianheadpark-il.gov or via text message at 708-497-9745, or we're on this Zoom and you can participate in the public comment sections. Of course, we also have this broadcasting on Comcast Channel 6, Facebook Live, and Zoom, and we will have this meeting posted on our website as soon as we can after the meeting. All right, on to the agenda. The first item is the mayor's report. Like I just said, the village continues to operate under the emergency declaration of the governor with regards to the Open Meetings Act. To this end, the village board will still conduct its meeting remotely. The village will record this meeting and make it available on its website as soon after the meeting as possible. Until the executive order is lifted, the village will conduct its business 100% remotely. Our plan at this point is not to go to a hybrid system where some of the public attends remotely and some attend in person, but we are planning to be either 100% physically in attendance or 100% remote. Persons wishing to submit questions tonight may do so again via text message, email, or verbally through Zoom during the public comment portion of the meeting. At some point in the future, hopefully, we will return to pre-pandemic meetings. Also, under the governor's orders, our restaurants are now able to operate up to 50% capacity or 50 people per room, whichever is lower. Next item, a coronavirus update. The Cook County Department of Public Health has Indian Head Park with a total of 257 confirmed cases of COVID-19 That is only 4 cases reported in the last month, or 2% from the last village board meeting. In Cook County, we have about 10% of the population fully vaccinated for COVID, and the county's 7-day rolling average per day is about 100,000 vaccinations a day currently. We have posted a vaccine sign up from the Cook County Department of Public Health on our village website. Next item is sidewalks. And again, we have 4 main areas for the sidewalk master plan. Acacia Drive, we'll be working on adding that this summer along with the new Acacia Drive itself. A reminder that Acacia Drive will be dusty and messy all summer. Plainfield Road and Wolf Road are both in a phase 1 study. We're expecting to have Wolf Road alternatives available about May for resident review and comment. The county is planning to have public meetings for this Wolf Road alternative review with the ability to provide feedback. And lastly, Joliet Road, a study of potential right-of-way land acquisition hopefully will be approved at our meeting tonight so that that work can begin. Lastly, for a 294 update, Joliet Road under the tollway is having new lanes reconstructed. The Plainfield Road Bridge work may start this summer or it may be next summer, along with the noise wall from Joliet Road to Plainfield Road. So that's close to Cochise, Pontiac, and Keokuk drives. That may be this summer or next summer. They still are working through those plans, but we have been notified that anybody who is close to the wall will receive notice at least 1 month in advance. And of course, we will get that same letter here at Village Hall, and we will provide that update when we get there. Next item up is our public comments. I don't think Linda or I have any as far as emails or text. Anybody on the call, would you like to make a public comment? I see Charlie Eck, and Charlie, you're muted. If you could please unmute.
Unmuted. Ready? My name is Charles Eck with Ashbrook Townhome Association. In the February meeting, I pointed out that Ashbrook was not happy with its relationship with a trash hauler. We either wanted the trash hauling company to go back to our then perceived agreement from September 21st or to release Ashbrook from the franchise agreement. I'm happy to report today that our attorney advises us, and because we didn't do this, we filed suit, which many of you already know about, but we filed suit in regards to this. I'm happy to report today that I believe we have a tentative agreement to put us back similar to what we had with that September 21st agreement with SBC. I see that Jake's on here too. Can you give me a thumbs up as to whether or not we have a tentative agreement, Jake? No? Okay.
At this point, I would just caution the board and make sure that the board is all aware that Mr. Eck is talking about a matter of pending litigation. So I would advise the board, Mr. Eck is welcome to make whatever comments he wants to make, but this is a matter of pending litigation. So I be so advised.
I'm through. I just want to let the board know, I think we've got a tentative agreement to resolve this and put this behind us. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Any other comments? Sean Williams, and you are muted. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So for those who don't know, my name's Sean Williams. I'm the pastor of Lionsville Church at Wolf and Joliet, and John DeRocher suggested that I speak to you at this part of the meeting, and so I am. Lionsville Church was founded in 1843, and we seek to be a positive force for good in our local community. And as we're launching a new phase of our ministry, it's become clear to us that that ministry requires less space than what we currently own. And so something, one way or another, is going to change on that corner in the next few years. And because we want to be good stewards and good members of our community, Because we know that the property is significant in the village, both in terms of location and history, about a year ago, our leaders opened the door to conversation with the village about repurposing much of the facility for public use and public good of some kind. And so our membership most recently took action on the 28th of February to continue moving forward. And at John's request, we selected representatives to an exploration committee if you choose to form that tonight. I feel like it's important to say that conversation has focused on village offices, but from our perspective, we're pretty open. That surely doesn't need to be the only option. We're open to a wide variety of uses. We're ready and willing to engage on exploring those things together. And we'll do whatever we can on our end to facilitate decision-making as quickly as we can. And of course, we understand that you may or may not decide that it's in the village's interest to do so. And we're a church. We would only want to do something that's good for all of us. And so, I just want to reiterate, if we need to move forward on our own, we just need to know that, based on conversation with John, we've agreed to hold off on pursuing other options until after September 9th. But of course, that said, we'd greatly prefer an early no than a long process if there's not sufficient interest in moving forward. Because when it comes down to it, we want to do good in the community one way or another with the resources we have. That's it for me now, but I'll be around later when this comes up on the agenda. So thank you.
Thank you, Sean. And again, that's item G on the agenda.
Yes.
So we'll get there. Other public comments, and anybody who doesn't have their video on, I can't see if you're raising your hand. I don't see anybody else. Linda, do you have anything? Linda says no. And again, we have another opportunity for public comments at the end of the meeting. Okay, I don't see anybody else. Don't hear anybody else. And let me check chat. I don't see any chat. Okay. We will move along to the consent agenda. Would somebody like to make a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as established.
I'll second.
Thank you, Brenda and Rita. John, do you have anything that you want to cover?
No, I don't.
Chris or Maureen, financial report?
Sure. At the end of January, the cash on hand was 2.7 million. Revenue for the month was almost 495,000 and payables were 392,000, leaving a unique balance of 2.8. There were not any payables out of the ordinary.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the board? All right, not seeing or hearing any. Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote, please? And you are muted.
Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Trustee Farrell Mayor.
Aye.
Trustee Conboy. Oh, not available yet.
Correct?
Okay. All right. Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee Metz.
Aye.
And I'm sorry, was that the?
That was an aye.
Trustee Metz? Okay, thank you. And Trustee Wittenberg.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that has been approved. Moving to the next item on the agenda is new business, item A, open public hearing 2021-2022 budget and capital plan. John?
So this is a part of the meeting where village staff will present a synopsis of the upcoming budget and capital plan for the new year. We'll have our finance manager, Heliak Garbaz, lead the way with an opening statement. Then Andy Farini, our intern, will address the capital plan, and then I will do a summary. And then we will open it up for public comment. And after the public comment period is finished, then the village board can chime in and talk and have any questions they have. And then we will close the public hearing. And then that will serve as the second reading of the budget.
John, I may have messed up. Do we need a motion?
You do need a motion, I'm sorry.
Would
I'd love
somebody-
to make a motion. Can I do that?
Yes.
Chris,
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for the proposed 2021-2022 budget and capital plan.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Chris and Brenda. And I'm sorry, we should take a roll call vote, right, Pat?
Yes, sir.
Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote to open the public hearing? Again, my apologies to everybody.
Yes, let's go with trustee Metz,
Aye.
trustee O'Loughlin,
Aye.
trustee Farrell Mayer,
Aye.
trustee Kennedy,
Aye.
and trustee Wittenberg.
Aye.
And then trustee Conboy is not available yet.
All right,
Okay.
again, my apologies. So John, I think you did the intro. I think we're turning it over to Helia for a comment. Is that correct, John?
Yes.
And
Elliot,
just for the record, I'm sorry, Mayor, the public hearing was open at 7:16 for the record.
Thank you, Pat.
All right. Hi, my name is Helia Garbus, in case anyone doesn't know who I am. And just want to cover a little bit of the details of the new 2020-2021 budget. So in accordance with the practices of the Government Finance Officers Association, the Village of Indian Head Park accounts for all its budgeted funds based on generally accepted accounting principles. The funds are divided into three categories: governmental, special funds, and enterprise funds. With the governmental category, village general spending is recorded in this fund. The special funds include the motor fuel tax, the debt service, the special parks fund, and the capital improvement fund. The modified accrual basis of accounting is applied to the general and special funds, which means revenues are recognized when they are measurable and available, and expenses are recorded when the liability is incurred. The water and sewer fund is an enterprise fund, which operates as a mini business under the control of the village. A full accrual base of accounting is applied to the village's water and sewer fund, which means that the revenues are recorded when earned and expenses are recorded at the time liabilities are incurred. The budget for the fiscal year 2021 is balanced. Please note that the individual budgeted line items were covered at the finance meetings and at the February board meeting. In summary, projected revenue for the general special funds will be approximately 5.8, and expenses for these same funds will be 5.8. Detailed line items for the projected revenue funds and expenses can be found in a 3/11/21 board packet. Projected revenues for the water and sewer fund will be approximately 1.6 million, and expenses for these funds will be 1.2 million. Excess revenue will be assigned to capital projects, and detailed line items for the projected revenue expenses also can be found in the board packet. Also, the village continues to maintain a 4-month operational reserve of cash for all funds. Thank you. And does anybody have any questions?
And John, as this is a public hearing, anybody can ask a question,
Yes.
is that right? So looking around, I do not see anybody asking questions.
Okay. So next, Andy will discuss the capital projects for the 2020-21 budget period.
Thanks, Helia. So I'm going to go over just some of the highlights of the capital improvement plan, some of the bigger, more significant projects. The first thing would be the complete reconstruction of Acacia Drive with the addition of a sidewalk on the outer loop of most of the Acacia Drive. And this also includes tree replacement. And we're going to work with the residents in Acacia on choosing the exact species of tree that we want to replace. The construction is going to total almost $1.5 million, but the village is only paying 30% of that, or about $470,000. The remaining 70% is paid through a federal grant, and funds for this are included in the proposed budget. Also, from the list of the goals that the village board adopted, we'll be looking to install video cameras for the police department to utilize throughout the village. We have $85,000 budgeted for this, and when we go further into the project. We'll see how far that gets us, and then go from there. And then it's also worth mentioning that for all the residents, that camera installation was the highest rated goal for the board. Also, we are looking to put a park at the Heritage Center with as well as a little pathway, as well as a community garden somewhere within the village. We're really kind of looking for any volunteers who might be interested in working on the garden. The total for both of these is about $50,000. Next up is kind of road repair program. This year, we're committing $500,000 for road resurfacing on various roads: Hiawatha, Sequoia, 65th Street, Indianwood Lane, Timber Ridge Court, and possibly Acacia Circle. And these are going to be paid through a grant from the state. We're also, in regards to roads, going to be looking to do patch and crack filling on various streets. I know, for example, there's some streets in Ashbrook that are that need some patching, but we're going to be looking at various streets throughout the village to do that kind of work. Next up is kind of our water and sewer. For this budget, we budgeted about $145,000 for sanitary sewer repairs. And this is the amount that we spend typically each year on sanitary sewer repairs. And the goal of it is basically to decrease the amount of stormwater that enters into the sanitary sewer system, just so that we don't have capacity issues further down the line. We'll also be doing an analysis of the stormwater or storm sewer system on the west side of town. And that's kind of due to changing weather patterns. We want to make sure that the system is adequately sized, and we have about $50,000 budgeted for that. In addition, we'll also be continuing the leaf vacuuming program. I know we got a lot of positive feedback about that this year, and we're going to continue that again this upcoming year in the fall, and that's going to cost about $30,000. It's also worth mentioning that we're going to be looking to add to the budget about $1 million for the complete reconstruction of the water pumping system, including the electrical panels and pumps at the pump house. And although the village does have the cash on hand to fund this reconstruction, we will be seeking out a loan from the IEPA. And the reason for this is, if you might remember that we received a loan forgiveness on our last loan from the IEPA of $1.5 million. And so we're kind of hoping that lightning strikes twice. But if it doesn't, we have the cash on hand to do the project either way. Then another thing that's worth mentioning is in regards to Wolf Road. And now it's important, just so everyone knows, Wolf Road is not a village road. It is under the jurisdiction of the county. But we are continuing to be the lead agency on the Wolf Road study. And this is going to be a reimbursement for the village. And although we will have some input on the design, things like how many lanes, etc., in the end, it is the county's jurisdiction, so we will not have the final call. Overall, all the projects that I've mentioned, with the exception of Wolf Road and the Acacia reconstruction, all of them are going to come back before the board at various times, so the board is able to vote on them individually, and then we can implement them afterwards if the board chooses to do so. And it's kind of worth also bringing into the fact that just today, President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan, which has a lot of funding for state and local governments in it. And while we aren't totally sure what the numbers are going to be yet, apparently we've heard from IML that it could be around $450,000 potentially in aid for Indian Head Park, and that could go towards capital projects as well. And I think that's about all the highlights. If anyone has any questions, we're ready to go. So,
Any questions from anybody, any residents? John, should we take board questions now, or should we take them after?
Let me add just a couple
Okay, Sean, if you can hold on to your question.
All right, so as Elliot, we told you earlier, the budget's balanced. That means revenues exceed or meet expenses. We've expanded the budget document a little bit. We've added goals, not only for the village board, but for individual departments. And we will be reporting on these quarterly. It's kind of a benchmark for us. We're trying to make the document as user-friendly as possible. So we explain it in a bunch of different ways. There's a narrative, there's a spreadsheet. So however you think, you should be able to find your answer in this document. Personally, I'm comfortable with spreadsheets, but I know some people like a story, so that's what we have. Last year, we received the Distinguished Budget Award from the Government Finance Officers Association. This is now our benchmark for the budget document and performance. We expect to receive it again next year because we have the model and template in hand. COVID has had an impact on the village, but not as bad as some other communities. Sales tax revenues are at or a little bit better than what we thought they would be. Some areas are down, but other areas offset them. So overall, we're okay financially. We have our 4 months cash reserve. We have a fiscal plan. We have a capital improvement plan that we know what roads we're going to do for the next 5 years. We know what the water system repairs are going to happen. We know long-term what our goals are going to be for the village. So all in all, it's a budget that I'm very proud of. And so if there's any questions, I guess now would be the time to ask.
A resident and board?
Anybody?
Sean Kennedy, do you still have your question?
I do. Thank you, Mayor Hinchuk. Andy, pertaining to the comment that you made of the, I guess, expected, for lack of a better term, the $450,000. Do we have any idea on time frame? Would that be lump sum, or is it $37,500 a month for the next year? What do we anticipate?
I'll take that one. I just got word from the Mayor's Caucus. We can expect the first half in about in less than 2 months, and then the second half 12 months after that. The bill is still being analyzed, but the IML and the Mayor's Caucus are telling us to expect about $450,000. The state also has other money that they're getting, and the county is getting money too. So there may be further pass-through money to the municipalities or large or regional projects. So stand by.
Other questions from the community, residents, or board? I'm looking. I have to interject. Linda and I missed a public comment, and we'll get that at the end of the meeting, but it's not pertaining to the budget, right, Linda? It was the general question. So my apologies. But any other one last time to look for questions about the budget capital plan? All right, I don't see any. I want to add one comment to what Andy said. Andy said with the Acacia Drive project that we're working with Acacia. We're also working with Wilshire Green on the tree selection. Those are the two main associations on Acacia Drive. But very much thank you to Andy, Helia, and John on the work on the budget. They start really the end of last year and kind of get things started. And then the Finance Committee has met several times. I think we have one more Finance Committee meeting. And then we will be asking the board to approve this next month. So one last opportunity to look through the Zoom. I don't see any other questions. Okay. Could we have, we need a motion to close the public hearing?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
And I'll
It's
second.
7:29.
And I will second.
Thank you, Brenda and Chris. That's at 7:29. Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote on closing the public hearing for the budget and capital plan?
Yes, Trustee O'Loughlin
Aye.
and Trustee Metz.
Aye.
Trustee Wittenberg. She may be still on the road.
Aye.
Yep,
Oh, there
thank
she
you.
is. Okay, thank you. Trustee Kennedy,
Aye.
trustee Farrell Mayor,
Aye.
and trustee Conboy. Okay, I don't see him. I don't hear him. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That has been approved. Okay, can we have a motion now for the second reading of the budget? What?
Yes.
Right. Somebody like to make a motion for the second reading of the budget?
I'll make
I'll
a
make a
motion
motion.
to proceed with the second reading of the budget.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sean, Kennedy, and Rita. John, anything to add?
This is a procedural.
Tom, we can't hear John on the,
This is a procedural matter for me. So staff's comments regarding during the public hearing will serve as our comments during the second reading.
Any comments from the board? Again, I want to thank the board, the finance committee, and staff on working on the budget capital plan. I think this could be our most important thing we do as a board, and this board has worked very hard to be open and transparent. Everything that we talked about tonight is online. It's part of the packet for now. We post the budget every year. We post salaries and all the information we can. So thank you to everybody for doing this. So I don't see any questions or comments from the board. Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Kennedy,
Aye.
trustee Farrell Mayor,
Aye.
trustee Metz,
Aye.
trustee O'Loughlin,
Aye.
trustee Wittenberg,
Aye.
and again, trustee Conboy. I don't see him. Okay, thank you. He's not here yet.
Still absent. All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Next item, would somebody like to make a motion to create the position of Assistant Village Administrator?
I'll make the motion to create the position of Assistant Village Administrator.
I'll second.
Thank you, Rita and Sean Kennedy. John, do you have anything to add to this?
I have unmuted. So a little bit of background. Since I came here, the workload for the administration department has changed significantly. There are greater expectations of staff from the board. We are morphing out the intern position and creating a full-time position. Our head count for staff, and in fact, the entire village for full-time employees will remain the same as it was in December of 2015. So we're really not adding any more bodies to as employees to the village. This position will serve me in an administrative capacity, provide high-level analysis and recommendations for projects that the board undertakes. So the job description is in your board packet, and I would strongly request that it be voted on in the affirmative.
Any comments or questions from the board? I do not see any. So Clerk Allison, could we please have a roll call?
Okay, trustee Farrell Mayor.
Aye.
Yeah, thank you. Trustee Kennedy
Aye.
and trustee Metz,
Aye.
trustee O'Loughlin,
Aye.
trustee Wittenberg.
Aye.
Okay, and trustee Conboy? Not present yet. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That motion has passed. All right, next item is garbage hauling. I believe, Andy, you're on for this, please, sir. And again, you're muted. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So just kind of giving a quick report on the kind of not only the complaints or concerns that we've had over the last month, but we also got our first month of performance data from SBC. Overall, the last month has been pretty smooth. It's gone pretty well. And on the village side for complaints, we received 5, and they were all kind of a cluster of 1 or 2 days. in which people weren't able to, for whatever reason, I think the SBC lines were busy or people had to hold. So we got a couple calls about not being able to reach them, but that was the only kind of issues and complaints that we heard on our side. For SBC, in their report to us, they received a total of 6 complaints throughout the month. We also got data on service demand and service activity. For example, so there's 730 homes that SBC picks up. One thing that's of note is that there are currently 157 addresses that have not paid their most recent bill. I know Jake's on the call too, so he can probably go into some more details if the board has questions. But so there's 157, and I know that SBC has delivered notices to these homes letting them know that they are delinquent, and that starting next month, SBC is gonna start actually not picking them up. They've been kind of going easy on them for now. So we're gonna work on the village side to get the word out in the next couple weeks through March to really remind people to need to pay the bill so that their service is not cut off and have to deal with that. Also, we collected data on tonnage for pickup, also weekly set out rates for garbage and for recycling. And it's kind of worth mentioning that these are kind of estimated percentages. It's kind of difficult for SBC, especially for the driver, to measure the exact amounts of like set out rate, especially in certain townhomes where there's a bunch of garbage cans next to each other, and it's hard to tell who's putting out and who's not. So we have data on that as well. And then we also collected data on kind of instances of, we call them unacceptable events, where either a item is not properly tagged or an item is being thrown away that is not supposed to be, kind of like, for example, fluorescent light bulb, or something's being put in the recycling that is not supposed to be, as well as recycling contamination, in which they'll still pick it up, but since it's contaminated, it will go into the garbage. And so the only kind of issue with that, it would be, and I know Jake has talked about this before, is the recycling contamination events. We had a total of 209 during February. And so along with the reminding to pay bills, we're also gonna, and we've done this before too, but we're gonna push out on social media again, information about what can be recycled and the proper way to do that. There's already an informational sheet on the village website, but again, we'll put that on social media as well. And if there's any questions for me or Jake about the data, we're happy to answer. The final thing I'll say about the garbage or the waste franchise agreement currently is that just a kind of a notice for the residents is that April 16th, which just a little over a month from now, is going to be our village amnesty day, in which you will be able to throw out up to 5 cubic yards of waste material, which is quite a bit. Jake can go more into the specifics of how much that is. I think we discussed it at last month's meeting as well. But you can put up to 5 yards of materials, and this includes things like chairs or tables and as well as normal refuse. And that's for 3 stickers you can put out up to 5 yards. Electronic waste and white goods are not included in this. However, on June 12th, which I know that's still a couple months away, and we'll get more information out as the time gets closer in smoke signals, social media, etc. But on June 12th, which is a Saturday, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., the village is going to be hosting with SBC our first electronics and paint recycling drop-off event. And this is going to be at our Public Works building at 11308 70th Place. And I think that's all I got. But yeah, if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, I have a question,
Jake and
Andy.
I-
Regarding the complaints, you said there were 6 complaints.
Yeah.
What was the nature of those, and do we know what area of the village they came from?
For the complaints to SBC,
Yes.
yes. I don't know all of them off the top of my hand. We have them in the report. I think there was a couple complaints about the billing notice was one. There was a complaint about, similar to the complaint that we got about the not being able to get to the line that day. But there was no kind of general pattern. It was just individual things.
There's 2 on the snow days with the wind that the cans were left tipped over on the side of the road. And there was another one that was residents said that their trash wasn't picked up. Our video showed that our truck drove by that wasn't put out. We went back and got it anyways. So some basic kind of complaints.
All right, thank you, Jake and Andy. Any other questions from the board?
Just one comment on the report on revenue collected and tipping fees. My only suggestion is if Jake's not going to fill that out, or there's a reason that some of these are always going to be 0, I would just take them off the sheet.
Yeah, I forgot. I'm sorry. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, since this is our first month with collecting the data, and I actually was out of town last week when we we're preparing, but we're going to clean it up in the future and stuff. So this was just kind of the first go at it. But yes, that is a good point.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I have a question. Maybe this goes to John. John, with regards to the Amnesty Day in June, I believe you said, Andy.
April is the Amnesty Day.
Oh, the electronics was in June?
Yeah.
Okay. So the April Amnesty Day, have we talked to the chief at all about the potential of there being a disruption on Wolf Road of scrappers stopping in the middle of the road to pick up items to scrap? I know in the past it was really a problem in Western Springs along Wolf Road and in the village itself. But have we done anything yet to try to get a plan in place for that?
No, we will. No, but we will. And I know that the deputy chief is on the call right now listening. So it will be an action item for the police department next week.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Again, everything that Andy covered is in the board packet. Okay, thank you. I don't see any other questions. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, second reading of the fence ordinance revisions. Is this you, John?
Yes. So the Shed and Fence Committee made the recommendation to the village board, and it's gone through planning and zoning. You have before you the second reading of the fence ordinance. It was on the agenda at the last meeting, but because of time constraints, we did not get to it. Here's the general framework for the fences in the village. First, if there's an existing split rail fence, that can stay as long as it's properly maintained and maintained with a standing of a natural color. Upon ownership, transfer of ownership of the property, the fence shall be removed. Cyclone fences, stockade fences, and any other type of fence must be removed unless if it has a variance from the village. And if the variance has been received, then the fence must be maintained and removed upon transfer of ownership of the property. Trellises will be allowed as long as they do not become fences. The ordinance shall not apply to properties adjoining commercial zoning districts. And because we're now going to require that existing fences that are permitted be removed upon sale of the house, the village will file notice with the county clerk the county recorder of deeds that this action is needed. This is not slated for a vote tonight. It's for discussion or amendment. And then at a future meeting, we will be voting on it. Trustee Kennedy was the chair of the committee, and so if he has any comments, I would defer to him. Otherwise, it's just for your discussion and consideration.
So I have a question in regards to, as far as the removal of the fence upon the sale of a property, who's responsible? Is it the new owner or the previous owner?
It will be the existing owner.
Okay.
And how do you
And I
determine
believe
what
the plan is to put some sort of lien or notice on the property?
You're on mute, Jen.
We will have to file notice with the recorder of deeds. That way they will be notified when a title search is done.
Okay, I've got a question. A trellis, how do you determine when it's being used as a fence or as a trellis?
If there are multiple trellises connected, that becomes a fence. So a single trellis is not considered to be a fence, and it was left loose on purpose.
Sean, I believe at the committee, an example came up of a trellis maybe to block trash cans. Was that an example that would be permitted?
Yes, that's already allowed in our ordinance.
Yeah, I think, John, and I don't want to speak for you, but I think what you were getting to is if you had multiple trellises along the side or the front of a house, at some point in time, that becomes a fence. But if somebody wants to block a couple of garbage cans on the side of their house, and you might have two trellises put together, we didn't consider that a fence. It's more of a decoration that somebody's trying to conceal an unsightly object from their neighbors.
Absolutely, and that is already covered in our ordinance, so you can use a small fence to block your garbage can.
Other questions, comments from the board? Okay, I don't see any. Again, John, can you mute for a moment? Again, the plan.
Mayor, you're muted. I'm sorry, Mayor.
Okay. Sean, I saw a thumbs down. Were you telling me I was muted?
I was, yep.
Okay. So thank you, everybody. So the plan, I believe, is to bring this back for a vote next month. And again, this is the item to address the fences. Sheds would be at another meeting, correct? So John's saying yes. So we're going to move on with the next item. Would somebody like to make a motion on, we're going to talk about the committee creation to discuss building opportunities. And I'll start out with this. So this is primarily regarding the church. And we had talked at the last board meeting about getting a committee started. I want to thank Sean Kennedy and Rita Belmer, who both volunteered to look into starting a committee. They had conversations, and before the committee is formed, they had a couple things that they would like to see accomplished. And Rita, I don't know if you want to say them or you want me to, but I'll keep going.
The thing is, we discussed at this point that there really is no solid proposal from the church as to what they want to see moving forward in conjunction with the village. To me, it's like someone offering to buy your house, but not telling you how it's going to go. We need to know exactly what they think or they want to accomplish with this. And beyond that, depending on what their response is, we also had concerns about, the connection of government and church and First Amendment concerns that if this is not doable under any of those circumstances, what is the point of moving forward? But I guess at this point in time, we feel like we're not sure what the church's goal is with this and what they want, what they expect of the village. And I know there are a series of questions that I asked be proposed to our council about this, which really have to do with, you know, what are the parameters around which we can even enter into any type of agreement with a religious entity. It's not just the fact that, you know, it would be the religion of the community. I don't think that it's limited to that. I mean, it could be symbols, it could be anything. And, you know, I just don't want the village to get into a situation where we have the ACLU suing us. So it's just, that's what my concerns are, you know, when Sean and I talked, that's what we thought before we move ahead with the committee and spend a lot of time and energy on this. Is it even something, first of all, what is the proposal? And secondly, what are our parameters in a legal sense?
Thank you, Rita. Pat, do you have something to add?
A few things. Thank you, Mayor. So to Trustee Fairmeyer's point, you know, we are currently analyzing the questions that were raised. There were additional questions that I was provided as well. But further to the point about the proposal, if the board is of the same mind, and at least in terms of direction to explore it, I did leave a message for the church's attorney, and I can continue to follow up with him and see if we could get something more concrete between now and the next meeting, and then marry that up with the completion of the research project addressing the questions that were raised by the board, and have that all before you as a package for the next meeting. If the consensus is it's a little bit premature to move forward to the committee with these unanswered questions. So I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to further that effort if that's the consensus of the board. And I'm sure I can get in touch with Mr. Fernaro and you know, work through those details simultaneous with the completion of the research project. The last piece of this, I just want to advise the board and just remind you that, you know, this is a topic that can be discussed as a board in closed session. There's a specific item of exemption under the Open Meetings Act that allows for these discussions to be conducted in closed session, including the policy question of whether or not to even acquire the property. So I just throw that out for your edification as well. Thank you, Mayor. That's what I wanted to add.
And Pat, in talking with John, I think our tentative game plan, depending on the progress that you make, would be to have a closed session discussion next month about some of the contractual items that you may bring forth.
That, you know, Mayor, that certainly would seem to be the logical progression of this. If that's the will of the board, I'm happy to further that.
Pastor Sean, I don't know if you want to add anything or not, but I would like to give you the opportunity, hearing at least a couple comments.
Yeah. You know, my understanding, and questions make a lot of sense to me. My understanding was that before this meeting was that the committee's purpose would be to explore the questions, and that would make those questions.
Yeah, I can't hear. You're kind of breaking up.
Okay.
Yeah, same for me. I don't know if it's the internet connection.
I'll follow up in a minute.
Okay. Yeah, Sean, I kind of got where you were going, that you thought that the committee would be formed and then we would iron out some of the details. And that's what I thought. But in looking for volunteers for the committee, Sean Kennedy and Rita Farrell-Mayer again raised their hand and said they would do that. But before doing that, there were some things that they felt should be ironed out before we go forward. So I think the world has changed a little bit. So now I see your hand up. Go ahead.
He's frozen.
I'm going to try one more time and then text you the next meeting. Okay, I'll text you.
Sorry, Sean, we're just choppy. Other questions or comments from the board?
One other thing that I would like to bring up too is the village financially able to take on this huge project after finding out that it was going to be 5.5 million just for the structural and ADA, getting the building up to compliance. And that doesn't even include as far as the renovation of the inside, and that's one of my major concerns too, is where are we going to get this money from?
Well, Brenda, I think the question of whether we can afford it is one that I think the easy answer is yes, we can borrow enough money. But is it something we want to borrow and do is another question, right? So I think we have the means to borrow up to $10.5 million. So I think we can do it. The question is, do we want to do it?
Want to do it, correct.
Well, I have a question about that. So we have the means to borrow 10.5 million. What does the impact on the cash flow of the payments on that? And this is where I think we have to have some before a committee is even formed, we have to understand the financial ramifications of, you don't look at a house that's, if you have a budget, you don't look at a $10 million house if you can only afford a $2 million house, right? So I think we have to be very realistic about how we spend our time here. We all thought this was a wonderful thing to look at, right? But we've already had several emails from our residents questioning all of the things we've brought up today.
Yeah,
And
I
think
completely agree. Oh, I thought you were done, sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that it would be, I was hoping that John would be able, or maybe Linda, we did get, I believe, 2 resident emails. And, I know maybe you'll read those, John, at some point, but I just think it's important to understand the feedback we've already received.
Yeah, and I completely agree that this is an awfully expensive venture, and I don't see where we would get the money for it. I think the offer from the church is generous, sort of. On the other hand, it would be quite the expense for the village. As much as I love the idea of being able to use that facility, I don't think we can afford it. I am curious to know, Pastor Williams said something about we don't necessarily have to look at it for a village hall. I wonder what other ideas might be out there and what else we would do with it. I'm curious to know what else they would do with it. But I agree with Brenda and Amy. This is way bigger than we can afford or should afford.
All right, Chris, let me try to answer the question. John, could you mute? Thank you. What else could we do? I think John reached out to the West Central the Chamber. The Chamber, I think the Park District is another potential idea. I think from what I understand from Sean, it could be municipal purpose. It could be the Heritage Center. So there are other ideas that kind of serve the public good, which was, I think, the church's initial intent. I want to go back to Amy's question about your comment about the 2 emails that we have received. We generally don't read every email or concern or complaint we get at a meeting. If a resident says, can you read this at a meeting, or this is a comment for the meeting, then we do try to get that. And again, we missed one earlier in our public comments that we're going to get at the end. So I don't think we intentionally missed, but again, if we did, apologize. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Sean brought this up actually in our meeting, that perhaps we could, if, the idea is to preserve the church as a historical place or community center, it could, we could certainly work with them on that without acquiring the property, and, look for community support for that endeavor as well.
All right, and thank you, Rita. I do want to say that because Sean was having connections, he did text John and I want to read Sean's text. And Sean, if I don't say it right, you can wave your hand or something. Sean said, we are on board to get whatever questions we need to have answered before the next meeting. We would ask that all questions be submitted in writing, and we'll turn around to get them back in writing. So Pat, I know that we have talked about this. I think you have some of the questions. Pat, if you wouldn't mind taking point to get these questions compiled and working with John, is that something that I could ask of you?
Sure. I just want to be clear. I think the questions that were posed to me are for me to answer as the counsel for the village. However, I think what I'm hearing from other board members is that they would like a written proposal from the church, almost, in terms of a letter of intent that would identify the key deal terms that the church is hoping to accomplish. And so I'm happy to work with the church's council to get that put together for the next meeting.
All right, so I see Sean saying thumbs up. John, let's do this. I think you have some questions from trustee Rita, right? After the committee or the start of the committee, Sean and Rita got together. Let me do this, make this to the board. If you have any questions, specific questions that you want answered, get those to me and John. We will compile them. We'll work with Pat. We will get an official village questions to go to the church, and we will move forward. Does that sound okay to the trustees?
Yes.
I see nodding heads.
Yep, sounds good.
Yes, thank you.
And I think that I think it goes without saying, but I do want to pause a moment and say this, that this is a project that we're moving forward with. But at any point, if a majority of the board wants to stop moving forward because it's too expensive or because we're not going fat, whatever the reason, a majority of the board can raise their hand, make it be known that they don't want to move forward. And I know the church is looking for an answer, sooner rather than later, but we have to kind of go through the motions, and this will take time. And they have set like a September deadline, and I hope we can make that, and we're moving forward to try to make that. But there is nothing said that we have to keep going if a majority of the board doesn't want to move forward. Is that okay with everybody? So do we have a consensus to keep moving forward at this point?
Yes.
I see 2 thumbs up. Any thumbs down? I see 2 thumbs up on a consensus to move forward. So
Well, let's talk about what that means. So if we asked Pastor Sean last time, if we thought, since we don't have a proposal right now, we have no idea if the church is willing, what the church is willing, if they're willing to, if we're going to lease this to the church, what our cash flow is going to be from the church.
or they're going to lease it to us.
Right. So, but I think if you just ask the question, and we make this very simple, and we look at I think, John, what was the estimate that you had all told? Not just the 5.5 or the 6.5. If you were going to prepare this for moving our village hall there, what was that number?
Okay, I think that the move-in costs in total to the church would be in the neighborhood of $7.5 million. And that would be to bring the building up to code, ADA compliance, elevators, and a municipal building.
Right. I just, guys, I'm just saying from my own perspective, and I know I don't want the wrong way, respect what we've been talking about and the initiative. I just don't think this is realistic for our municipal fiscal, where we're at. I would love to say that think that this is realistic or practical for us to go forward. I was hoping we would be able to do that and that we'd have a couple of $1 million of renovation. But this is triple probably or quadruple what we thought it would be. So in my mind, even thinking about a community center, right? That doesn't offload, anything like selling our property to gain more revenue, right? Those costs might even be more. Knowing that we could rent or lease part of it to other people, we've discussed that. I just think that's why I was asking for a financial scenario to be developed about this. I think any way you look at it, it's not going to be, our village isn't gonna be able to afford it and operate and do what we've already said we want to do. From our infrastructure standpoint, from what we wanted to do as a village board. That's just my 2 cents, very, very candidly.
And I agree as well. And that it's taken us, been on the board going on 8 years. It's taken us 8 years to get the village to be financially stable, to be finally able to do projects in that. But to put us down into $8 million in debt again, I just don't think it's feasible. I don't know if the community would appreciate that. And that we're happy that we finally can do capital projects, et cetera. And that,
I mean, we've had community members ask us.
I thought it was like a gateway to the community in that until we start seeing the figures. And it just doesn't make sense for the village to go into that much debt.
Oh, thank you, Brenda, Amy. Any other comments? All right, so when I asked consensus, I saw 2 thumbs up. I didn't see any thumbs down. I think we still move forward unless majority want to stop.
What if we just got answers to some of the questions for now?
Well, that would be moving forward. So that's
the simple questions, not a full-blown committee.
Well, as I understand it, John, could you mute, please? The committee before forming wants what could be seen as a simple answer as a proposal from the church. It could also be the legal entity. Are we leasing from them? Are they leasing from us? Are we being given the property? Are we buying the property? Who's paying for the repair? All those many things we've talked about. And it's a complex issue. So, hopefully we can get to the answers in the next month. I'm willing to bet out of the list of questions between us and the church, not all of them can be answered in 30 days, but that's just my guess.
Maybe we need to ask the church if they can do $5 million worth of repairs before they turn it over. Maybe that's about the only thing that would probably work.
All right, and that's a good line. But so I think we're going to leave it that the board, please get me and or John any questions that you have so we can get a combined master list. We'll work with Pat and we'll get that to the church, Sean, hopefully in a week. And then we can hopefully get that addressed and turned around. And Sean, I would ask, one of the big questions was a formal proposal. We've kind of talked about, is this a gift? Is this a sell? Is this a trade? What are we talking about? And I think that's kind of where Rita was going. What is the written proposal from the church? That's one of the questions. And I know it's not defined very well, but again, there's a lot of moving pieces. And I don't think that we need to have to define it at this point. All right. In order to keep the meeting moving, I'm going to keep rolling unless there's any last comments. I will give one more time. All right. Don't see any. It was quick that time. Anybody want to make a motion about task orders? Next item on the agenda.
Yes, I will make a motion to approve the following task orders. The Strand Task Order 21-01, Pump Station Project Planning Document for a cost not to exceed $25,000 even. And the second Strand Task Order 21-03, Joliet Road Sidewalk Feasibility Study for a cost not to exceed $59,800.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sean, Kennedy, and Chris. John, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I do. The task order for the Joliet Road surveying is being taken care of through a grant from the state of Illinois. We received $175,000 in grant funding for land acquisition for a sidewalk along the north end of Joliet Road. Surveying is a key element in land acquisition, and that is what this proposal will address. This is just merely part of the grant funding from the state of Illinois. We will spend the money and then we will be reimbursed by the state. The second task order is for the water system improvements. Andy had mentioned this earlier in the budget presentation. We will be submitting some paperwork that is covered under this document to the IEPA in hopes to get in line for a loan, which we are eligible for, and then hopes that we can get some loan forgiveness. The loan, the $25,000 task order includes system design, which we would have to do anyway. So it's money being well spent. So that is the gist of the two task orders, and I would request that they be approved.
Any questions or comments from the board on the two task orders? All right, I don't see any. Clerk Allison, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Allison, you're muted.
There you go.
Sorry about that. I lost you for a while. Let's see. I'm at Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Okay. Trustee Metz.
Aye.
Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Trustee Wittenberg.
Aye.
Trustee Farrell Mayor.
Aye.
And Trustee Conboy. He's not here. Okay, thank you. All right, that's approved.
All right, thank you, Clerk Allison. All right, we're at the agenda item, and Linda, let's not forget, again, the public comment at the end. We're at the agenda item for the reports from trustees. I'm going to start again at the old days with the dais. Trustee Rita Farrell Mayor, anything to report?
No report.
Thank you. Trustee Metz?
No report.
There is a finance committee meeting coming up, right?
There is. And
Elia, you know the date offhand?
wait, you don't trust me to have it? It's the 24th,
24th.
6 p.m.
And that may be the last meeting of the year, correct?
Could be.
Yes, and the best one.
Thank you. That's it, sir?
Yes, that is it. Thank you.
Trustee Wittenberg?
We have the annual Easter egg hunt will be on April 3rd, Saturday, 11 to 1, where we'll be having the hunt as well as petting zoo and pony rides. So please let everyone know, have all our wonderful children and adults show up. Hopefully it'll be great weather and we can enjoy a nice spring day together outside.
Thank you to you, Brenda, and I think the fund committee heads that up. We have the little yard signs that we put at the entrances, right? Those will be going up that week or the week before?
Yes,
Right.
Yes.
and we'll put the Heritage Center sign up. And if all of you can maybe post on your Facebooks, that would be great because we want to get everybody out and active this Easter.
Historically, that's been our biggest event for the village, right? But we did have a little run for the money with the Santa Claus outside, correct?
And reindeers, yes, we did.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Amy. Trustee O'Loughlin?
No report.
Thank you. Trustee Kennedy?
No report, but I just wanted to question and clarify the finance committee on the 24th of March this month.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't think Trustee Conboy made the meeting, so nothing from him. Village Clerk, anything to add?
No report. Thank you.
Thank you. Village Treasurer?
No report.
Thank you. Village Attorney.
No report, and I've not been advised of any request for closed session later in the meeting. Thank you.
Village Administrator.
Yes, electrical aggregation letters will be going out very soon. Again, that's something the board approved last month, and people can opt out of the green energy program being offered by the village. The second thing is, you may have noticed I've been on video silent, or my video has been off for most of the meeting. It looks like at this meeting, because I'm doing that and controlling the meeting from my tablet, it's running a lot smoother. We're not using as much bandwidth at Village Hall, so that's the reason why my video has been off. That's it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, John. Any department head reports? Okay, none of those tonight. All right, public comments. Before we forget, Linda, can you please read? And again, I apologize that we forgot that at the first part of the meeting. Linda, you're up.
Thank you, and I do apologize to Eileen. Eileen Caratini from 127 Acacia Circle.
We still have the delay. I hear a delay. I see Amy. We had this last month, and we thought getting Linda direct wired into the system would do that, but that's not. Can you bring that up? And if you bring it up, I can read it, right?
Yes, sir.
While we're doing that, I'm going to look around the room or the Zoom and see. Sorry, we tried. See if there's any other questions from the community. And as I look at Zoom, I can see some faces, but can't see some. So, all right. Here's the question from Eileen Caratini, and sorry if I mispronounced that, Eileen. Questions for the entire board regarding moving to Village Hall. Number one, what happened to separation of church and state? Number two, why? No reason has been given for the need to do this. 3, you had an uproar about sidewalks, and now we won't be able to use them to get to Village Hall. 4, now most of the village can walk to the Village Hall. Why move it to a place that no one can walk to? Crossing Joliet Road and Wolf Road is crazy. Have you been to that parking lot in the winter when it's difficult to get in and out of there? Question mark. Number 5, $6 million plus dollars. Again, why? Appears that we have countryside envy. And believe me, that is how this will be always thought of. And number 6, why can't remodel and add on to the current Village Hall? So thank you again for your comment. Again, I'm sorry. If there were other comments sent to the board, I'm sorry. When I see a resident making a comment, I usually try to clarify, is this something, that you're complaining about, or you want something fixed, or is this a message for the board? So if other comments were sent in for the meeting to be read, I'm apologizing. I'm looking at Linda, and she didn't have any, and again, we both forgot that one. So if there are other comments, please, we have another opportunity at the next month meeting. So any other one last opportunity, looking around? All right, I don't see any. Would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Rita and Brenda, thank you very much. And the time that I have is 8:19. Could we do a roll call vote, please, Clerk Allison?
Yes, we can. Let's see, we'll do Trustee Farrell Mayor first.
Aye.
And Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee Metz.
Aye.
And Trustee Wittenberg.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that has been approved. Thank you all very much. The meeting is adjourned. We'll see you next month.